It's great to be here. A real pleasure. So yeah, looking forward to working with you all today, and yeah, I hope we can answer some questions at the end. So Tess, I think you're up. Could you tell us what you're playing?
I'm playing the second movement of the Scaramouche.
All right, sounds great. Well, I'm ready when you are. All right, Tess, fabulous playing. What a way to get us started. Really beautiful. Yeah, great control, really excellent musicality. You know, I really appreciate too, Tess, you're playing a lot of things that aren't written on the page. And that's exactly what we should be doing. You know, what we see printed, that's the starting point. And you're doing so much more than that. I circled a couple things on my page here and just wrote yes, because you do exactly what I would have done. So really, really great job. There may be a few things we can talk about to make it even better. And I think you're sort of at the stage, you know, you're at 96% on this. Going from 96 to 97, that's kind of the hardest part. You know, that last 1%, that last 2%, but that's also the good stuff. So let's jump in and try a couple things. Let's just go all the way back to the beginning. This is a beautiful sort of, I always liken it with my students to a lullaby. It's just a sweet song, you know. And if you look at 95, that first semi-brev, did I get that right? Yeah, all right, cool. I have to translate, you see. Interestingly, I'm married to an Australian, a saxophonist, as it were. So I sort of know this system of notation, but I'm not fluent, so please bear with me. When you have those semi-brevs, think about, especially in this case, how you want to use your vibrato. You have a really, really beautiful vibrato. It's very singing, but you're starting it a little late. You arrive on that D, and then you slowly sort of bloom the sound. What if we arrive right on it, vibrate right away, and then as you're tapering your dynamic down, which you're doing, take away the vibrato. So everything sort of works in harmony. Can we try it from the beginning? Yeah, great, Tess. Better already. Little things like that can really make a difference to how we, like the listener, hear it, how we perceive it. And the one thing I'm always reminding myself as I practice, as I perform, is it's all about the audience's experience. Sometimes it's very clear to them. Other times we need to lead them a little bit more. And that's a good opportunity to think about leading the audience. Do you remember, have you played this with piano yet? So do you remember what the piano is doing while you're playing that D semibrev? So they have the same rhythm, right? So, you know, we can sort of think about placing the listener's ears in the piano. Sometimes that means we have to take the spotlight off us. So the way you use vibrato there puts my ears in the piano. Make sense? Awesome. Let's keep going. Let's look at bar 100. As you move from B flat to A to G into 101, be a little bit more gentle. You could even think of like a slight pull of time, a slight sede, again to sort of like lead the audience. Something different's about to happen. We sort of want to help them, you know, sort of understand and come along with us. Let's try it. Bar 100. Good, good, beautiful. Take just a little more time on the A. It's more than you think. Yeah, I like that. Now, that's just a personal preference, but I think an audience member would feel that pull. As you're moving from B flat to A, they maybe lean forward in the chair a little bit. That's what we want. Active participation in the music. Very nice, well done. Okay. Can we go, please, to bar? Well, why don't we start at the top of the next page? G da da ba da dee da da dum. I want you to play this whole section again. We'll go all the way to the end of the next line where it says sede. And all I want you to think about, it's difficult when we're by ourselves without piano, but silence is part of the music. Don't rush through them. Make me like participate in that silence. Yes, piano is playing, but really think of that as part of the process. Don't just wait for your turn to play again. Let's try it. Two lines, please. Better already to my ears. Absolutely. Let's add one more element. Your silences are great now. Same thing here as the beginning, right? We're trading back and forth with the piano. So we can think about, that balance, yes. But any great pianist you play with, and you will play with a great pianist, I'm sure, they're going to put a little tenuto on some of those notes. For instance, the pickup to bar 115. Just that little tiny tenuto is going to go a long way. It's very warming. It's very inviting for the listener. Let's try that. Add just a touch of length. You could think of adding 2 shimmers of vibrato on it. Yeah, good first effort. Try it again. Just a touch shorter, but we're right there. There we go. Yeah, that's it. These little things, again, that's the 1%, right? That's the good stuff. So keep practicing that. It's always a challenge to sort of stretch time like that, because basically we're going to take out a loan and we're going to pay it back later in the beat, because we're stretching that first one. We got to compress maybe the last 3/16 just a little bit. But if done well, nobody really, feels uncomfortable about it. It just feels really inviting. Yeah, well done. Let's check out a little bit of this next mouvement. 6/8. Now, do you feel like this is a different character, Tess? What are you thinking about here?
I view this piece in colours, and these colours are a lot warmer than colours in the previous section.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great way to describe it. It's, certainly warmer. Do you feel like it's a different style a little bit?
Yeah.
Any descriptors for that style?
I think it's a bit stronger than the previous section.
I would agree. More forward. That's a word I would use. Does it feel a little bit like a dance to you?
Yeah.
Awesome. It does to me too. And I think that's a really nice character to bring out, especially some of these moments of a little bit more color, like you say, a little bit more flair. Those sort of moments you can bring out a little bit more. So let's try this opening again. And why don't we go, could we go all the way to 125? So bar 119 to 125 and bring out some of that character. Go too far, I dare you. Yeah. Great. I don't think anybody would be offended by that. No way. Beautiful sound, great dynamic. It's just really inviting, warm, like you say. I just feel like I'm really being invited into the music, making a bit more. And that's something to really think about, playing as a soloist versus, playing as a member of an ensemble, whether that's a small group or a big group. So solo mezzo pianos, maybe a little bit more full. And I think that's a great place to be. Does that all make sense so far, Tess? Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Maybe 1 or 2 things more. If we could start at 135. Played really beautifully in here, great fingers, but can you make a little more shape inside all these 16th note triplets? Just follow, as you get higher, get a little bit louder. As you go lower, get a little bit softer. It's just gonna, again, bring me, the listener, along with you. Yeah, very good. I like that. Those subtle shapes, that's sort of where the magic is, I think, in music. These little tiny things that are almost imperceptible, but we just go gosh, I like that. I don't know why, but I really like that. So a little bit of that shape is going to go a long way. On that final note, Tess, at 140, da-dee-da-dum, are you doing anything to correct the pitch? It's a high C sharp. We know it's not the greatest note on saxophone.
I'm putting the 4th finger down.
Perfect. That's what I would suggest as well. And it also helps the color to be warm, like you say. That's gonna be a good thing. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Tess, beautiful. Let's go back to Mouvement de Début, right there where we pick up the main theme again. So interestingly, for everybody listening, maybe you know this piece, maybe you've studied it before. Now we have here a synthesis of the three themes. Everything comes together between the saxophone and piano. So it's a little bit more dense than the opening. There's more movement, there's more sound. So Tess, for you, that means what? If the piano's playing with a bit more notes and it's a bit busier, what should you do?
I'm not really sure.
Well, are you still the most important voice?
No.
I would say yes, actually. It seems like a trick question, I'm sorry. But you're still the most important voice. So that might mean, rather than mezzo piano plus, just to make sure we really hear you, because that is an important balance element here. So let's try this opening, or the Mouvement de Début, 143, and just think about, you can definitely play louder. You could play maybe with a little more vibrato to help carry the sound a little bit more, or draw our ear to it. Let's try it. Excellent, Tess. Excellent. Great. I think that's that's a good balance now. You know, as I imagine the piano part, I think you're gonna be able to sit on top of that. It's not overbearing. It's very nice. Maybe my last thing. Let's look at 155. Would you play just those 2 bars? Well, let's make it 3. We'll stop on the A. Good. Now, what you're playing is beautiful. I'm going to offer another option. Nothing we do in music is yes or no. It's not correct or incorrect. It's just about what we're aiming toward, what goal we have. You're playing it the same as you did in the opening, which I quite like in the opening, because it's helping start the piece and move it forward. Here, I feel, when I've performed this, that this is a spot where we're sort of winding down. And so dynamically, what that means is, personally, I would start 155 a little stronger, and then with each iteration, get quieter. Let's try it. Yeah, good. Now, if you were to choose that route, after trying both with piano and seeing what you feel is your interpretation, I would suggest one more thing. If you're going to go the direction I've suggested. Do you know the alternate fingering for middle D, side D?
Yeah.
So that could be an option there as you're getting quieter and the sound is becoming less, maybe playing with a little more transparent sound, which side D is. It's not as full. That can be a nice way to keep us tapering down. Why don't you try that? There you go. That's okay. Just make sure it's the right key. You want to do the second palm key here. C2. Yeah, try it one more time. There we go. That one was much better. So, you know, these are options. Ultimately, the best thing we can do is explore options and decide for ourselves what we want to do. That's the great thing about what we do, is that everyone does it a little differently. That's, you know, to me, really great. So you can keep exploring that. Tess, do you have any questions for me on anything we've talked about? All right. Great to hear you today. Congratulations. You're playing beautifully. Keep it up. Yeah, a pleasure. All right, April, great playing. Really fantastic. I like this piece a lot. Yeah, you're playing really beautifully. Some really great things going on. Really exceptional tempo, I will say. Like really great tempo and very consistent, especially switching between 6/8 and all of this. You did a really, really nice job. April, what are some of the things that you find when you practice this piece you're always coming back to? Like every day I have to check on this because, you know, if I don't, it will slip away.
Sometimes I feel like I have to check on that I don't speed up on the tempo I have to go on, and sometimes I have to make sure I'm turning in the right places.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think tempo is a good one, and you've done a great job, as I just said. But it's easy for it to run away because it's such like happy, sort of forward, joyous music. Dun, 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 like it just wants to run away on us. But you're doing a really, really nice job. And for the tonguing, I think that's a good one that we can work on because that was on my mind a little bit. So let's just go back to the beginning. That's a good sort of testing ground for us, I think. So in your very opening, how do you make those accents? What are you doing?
I'm knowing like more air.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. It's air, right? And that's the correct answer. And there is a correct answer on that. But sometimes we think, I know I did certainly in beginning band, I thought, oh, to make an accent, I have to like tongue harder. I got to use my tongue more. But, you know, you're right. It's about the air. So we think about releasing the air. So I want to challenge you. Let's try the first two measures. And what I'm going to say is you're not allowed to use your tongue. So you can't actually tongue them, but I want you to try to make the accents without using the tongue at all. It's going to be a little more effort. If you want to take it a little more slowly, that's okay. But try it. See how we go.
So basically, so where do I have to do up to?
How about just up to that first middle C, the sforzando piano?
Okay, all of it slurred.
All of it's slurred, but you need to make the accents using your air.
Oh, okay. No. I'm so used to tonguing it.
I know.
Just slur all of it.
Yeah, it's tough. Go ahead, try again. Good. So I'll try it once too and see if you can hear. There we go. Now we can hear you using the air a little bit more. Try one more time. Go 50% more than that. Good. Awesome. Okay. Now let's go back and play it as you're used to. We're going to let you use your tongue again, but keep that idea of air in mind. We got to get the air engaged. Everything relies on the air, and articulation, accents, they're a function of air. Try it. Good. Now, if I was there in person with the whole class, I would turn to the audience and say, who here thought that sounded better? And everybody would put their hand up. And I'm sure all of our friends here would put their hands up because it sounded better, cleaner, and it was much more air-oriented than tongue-oriented. So that's a good way to practice things like this. You can do that on scales and just say, okay, I'm going to accent every other note with only the air. It's a good way for us to get our air engaged.
Yeah.
All right, April, let's keep going. Very nice job. Can we jump down to rehearsal B? Ba-da-dum, 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 bum-bum. And let's play all the way to just before bar 30. So it's into the next line. We'll stop on that high A. Good, great. Now, that might be a good opportunity in there to play with a little vibrato. Is that something you've been working with?
Not really.
Ah, okay. Well, we'll leave that for another time. But you have a really good sound, and so I think you're ready. Like, you use your air well. I think vibrato is next for you, because that would be a good spot to add that little shimmer, create a little bit more excitement. So put that on your list maybe the next time you meet with your teacher. But yeah, so that would be another opportunity to sort of up the excitement there. You're doing so good dynamically. Like, you're really doing a nice job dynamically. So that last 1%, that's adding some vibrato.
Okay.
Make sense? Okay, let's keep going, shall we? Why don't we jump over to, I think it would be really good to go through this section at D.
Yeah.
And so let's try this section. We'll go all the way to the bottom of the page. As you're playing, especially in the high register, in the fortissimo section, what I want you to think of is, again, the idea of air over tongue. The air is more important. Let's try it.
Okay.
Yes, really, really excellent. I thought that was better than the first time. Sometimes, I think it's curious for everybody listening when we see like a tenuto marking, in this case over a quaver. Sometimes we see that and go, "Oh, I need to tongue more," and sometimes we end up playing shorter than we would if there was no marking. So what you did that time, I thought, very clear, on those notes, but not overly short. So I think that's kind of the sweet spot. That's where we get our best sound, and you can still do some dynamic shape, which you did. So it works out really well. Let's do that one more time. Why don't we demonstrate it for all of your colleagues here? Could we start, April, please, at 2 lines from the bottom of the page where it's marked fortissimo? High D flat followed by C flat. Dee da 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 dee da 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 dum bum bum.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, good. Much better. So that just that little bit of length, I think, goes a long way. A long way. April, do you have a recording of this that you're listening to that you like?
Yeah, I've been listening to my recordings just since it's about that full tempo.
Mm-hmm.
The full tempo quite a lot, so I sometimes get carried away going on that tempo.
Sure. Oh, no problem. It's just good that you're listening to it as well. You know, we learn a lot from listening. So like when you hear somebody playing this, you kind of pick up some of their interpretation. I think that's really good. So I'm glad you found that. And it's so easy to find recordings now. So take advantage. That's great. Okay, let's do a couple more spots, I think. I'd love to jump over to the last page, page 11. At least that's what it is in my score. Now we have, big high register, these sort of soaring long lines. So let's try these. Why don't we start top of page 11? Can we start the second measure? Da da dee dee da dum ba da dum ba. And let's take it a little bit slowly. I really want you to listen for your sound here. And let's go. Why don't we stop at G? Is that okay?
Start at G.
Stop at G.
Oh, stop at G. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. See, now because we've slowed it down just a little bit, like your sound is sort of opening up a little bit more. It's quite common for us as saxophonists, to like bite a little bit as we play up high. We don't use quite enough air, but what we need to think about is, for instance, like when you're playing your high F there, April, the saxophone is only like this big. It stops right here.
Yeah.
So that's it. So if we want to have a really nice full sound, we have to really make sure we're using a lot of air. It's harder to play with a good sound in the high register, which doesn't quite make sense when we think about it. Like, well, it should take less air. The tube is only this long. So let's try it now closer to tempo, but I want you to feel the air in the same way. Try it. Yeah, there we go. Great. I think that's better. Now, how do you practice like playing with good air, April? Do you have any tricks?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I sometimes do this paper trick thing.
Oh, where you hold it against the wall and
Yeah.
blow? Oh, I've done that since I was a little kid too. I'm so glad other people do this. I'm going to share another trick with you and the rest of the class that hopefully you'll be okay to demonstrate. So my first question as we demonstrate this, are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Right-handed. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll back up and sort of demonstrate a little bit, is what I want you to do, we're going to play the same section, but I want you to do it standing on one leg. And so because you're right-handed, I'm going to ask you to stand on your left leg. So, and then pull it up as high as you can. It's going to make you a little off balance, and that's a good thing because it's going to make you support, because you're going to have to use all these muscles here to keep you standing. Let's try it, shall we?
Yeah, okay.
Can we try?
Same section.
Yes, please. Same section. Yeah. A little uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have to balance, right? And good air support comes from the core, this sort of center abdominal region. So balancing, that's where balancing comes from too. So this is a good way to sort of check on things. With my students here at the University of Texas, we call that the flamingo pose, because you got to pull that one leg up. But it's a really nice help. And I find it really good to, even for me, I've been playing the saxophone for 27 years. I still do this most mornings when I warm up because it just helps me feel a little bit more engaged. And I think we could all hear when you played that, it was definitely a fuller sound. So that's a good thing. So that's something you might sort of fold into your, if you're getting warmed up for the day and playing some scales, try that and see how it feels.
Okay.
April, really beautiful job. You are doing an exceptional job with this piece. You should be really proud of yourself. Do you have All right. Yeah, well done. Well done. Nice playing. Good sound. Really good sound. And like rhythmically, like this, it's highly syncopated, right? But you're doing a really nice job playing everything pretty well in time. It's working out great. So Yulin, what are some things when you're practicing, just like I asked April, what are some things that you keep coming back to that like on, a daily basis you say, I need to remind myself about this?
The dynamics and articulation.
Dynamics and articulation, always at the top of the list for us all. I think you're doing them very well, so it's good that you keep on checking in with that. So let's look at a couple things. First, let's do in this first line again. So we'll do the first 4 bars, measures. Those last 2 accents, da-dum, da-dum, bum, bum. Are you playing those exactly the same? Are those 2 notes, the A and the B, are they the same length or are they slightly different?
They're the same length.
Okay, so let's try it again from the beginning, and I want you to really listen to those when you get there and try to play them exactly the same sort of shape, if you will. Try it. Ah, very good. Better than the first time. So I think that's an important thing for us to make sure we're being really clear on. If we see an accent, that means accent, right? Of course. But like how short is short enough? What I use the word shape. What kind of shape does the note have? So often with my students, we'll talk about like the front of the note, the attack, like how firm we might want that. And then especially the end of the note. Does it have like a long tail? Do we taper it way down? Is it also equally as choppy as the beginning? Like, do we really want to chop it off? So what do you think for the accent of this tango, especially because that's a clue? Do we want something that's like fluffy and beautiful or something that's a little more angular and exciting?
A bit more exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Tango's a pretty exciting dance if you've ever seen it done. I hear that and I think about like sort of stomping the feet as part of the dance move and like the sound that makes on like a nice hard floor. So I think it should be, exciting and maybe dramatic is another good word. So let's try it once more from the beginning and see if you can make that sort of the most important moment, those last 2 notes. Say that again, please.
So should I play the whole piece up to bar 28?
No, let's just do the first couple measures again, but make those 2 accents the most important part of those first 4 bars. Ah, there we go. Good, good. It's better. It's better for sure. So keep sort of pushing yourself when you practice to look at those little details and think, am I doing this? Is this like a tango? Is this supposed to be an exciting moment? Is it a more lyrical moment? Because we do want to make sure those are different. All right, let's look at the second line, okay? Mezzo piano. So now, contrasting, right? Less dance-like, more lyrical. So why don't we start in bar 5, please, and let's go all the way to bar 9. And think about really contrasting what you just played in the opening. Really nice, beautiful sound. Follow those phrase shapes when you're ready. Ah, there we go. Good, good. Can I make one suggestion in bar 7? I think we might be able to change the fingering for D. Da, dee, da, 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 dum. So do you know the side D fingering? We talked about it with our first performer this morning. Yeah, so let's try that. That way, because what's happening, to explain why I'm suggesting this, Yulin, is when you're playing middle C and then you move up to middle D, there's a little bit of an accent that happens. And so if we can eliminate the accent, that might be better for like the overall phrase. Let's try it. Right on that measure. This is measure 7, please. Good. Try it one more time. There we go. Good, good. And a quick change, right? So that's a possibility. You can decide for yourself. You could play it the way you did, certainly, and just work on the air a little bit so we don't have quite as much accent. But that way is a good sort of option as well. Should we try the section once more? Let's go from bar 5 to bar 9. With all that in mind, your best, most beautiful sound, think about, like if you were singing this, how you would shape those phrases. Yeah, great, Yulin. Did everybody hear that he went for the new D fingering and nailed it? Really well done. Great. Okay, let's keep going. What about this next section? Ba-dum-bum-ba-dee-da-da-da-dee-dum. Is this different? Do you feel like it has a slightly different character? Is there something you want to do differently in here? What do you think?
I think it's a mix of Simon and a bit of like.
Okay, yeah. Let's try it. Let's do this section again. So we'll start at this is bar 10, and why don't we stop at bar 15? Good, good, Yulin. Well done. Let's take a closer look. Let's zoom in on bar 12 and bar 13. What I'm hearing when you finish at bar 13, G, C, you're holding that 8th note out quite long. You're doing a little vibrato on it too. It works really well, but it's not exactly what's written. So I wonder if we can just shorten the length. Let's keep the excitement on the note, the vibrato, but just try to play only the 8th note. Can we try that, bar 12 and the downbeat of bar 13? Yeah, good. Was that like hard to think like, okay, I got to vibrate right away really quickly and then turn the air off? Say it again. Okay. So let's try now. Let's extend it. Same idea. As you get to bar 14, same thing. Don't play that 8th note too long, but just vibrate really quickly, get that excitement, and then silence. Try it. Bar 12 all the way to 14. Ah, there we go. Good, good. So now, to me, the listener, now I can hear like the sequence of events. Because we can hear like the phrase is changing, right? We're getting different ending every time. So now I'm hearing that really clearly. So be careful of that. Sometimes we're tempted to play the end of a phrase or the end of a passage and linger a little too long on the note to add vibrato, even though it's maybe a shorter value. So be careful. Does that make sense, Yulin? Awesome. Okay. let's keep going, shall we? Can we play, please, 15, 16, bar 18? Let's go bar 18 to bar 23. Same things in here. Watch those silences, those last eighth notes before rests. Yeah, okay, good, better already. So now you're really hearing those silences, paying attention to the lengths of those notes, but we're still getting the vibrato, which is aces. We want to definitely keep doing that. Well done, well done. Let's try it once more. We'll go at the same spot. And Yulin, what I want you to focus on this time is a very small thing. So we're only going to play bar 18. That's it. But I want you to think about your very first note. And can you be more delicate with your articulation there? Da 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 dee da dum. Try it. Okay, once more, once more. What I'm thinking here, and we'll work on it and see if we can get to the solution. It sounds to me, Yulin, like right before you play your first note, that you're thinking of striking the reed. Like think about how we might strike a bell, you know, to make it make that sound. Dong. But what we really want to think about when we play saxophone, clarinet, bassoon, oboe, is releasing the sound. So if this is your reed here, this is a hand reed, right? And this is your tongue. Articulation is that motion. We're moving the tongue away from the reed and allowing the air to move, not that. So right when you get ready to play, your tongue is already on the reed and then you're just releasing. Try it. Go a little slower if you'd like. That sounded better to me for sure. Try it. Let's do three. Well, let's do four more in a row. All right, Yulin, good job. It gets better with each time too, right? So this is a neat thing for us to practice because we can get a lot of control. And, you know, it takes maybe a little bit of time to sort of zoom in like we're doing and really get a sense for like how the tongue and the air have to work together. But it allows you to sort of shape things a little bit more. Usually an entrance like that that's syncopated, you know, we end up having a little bit of an accent, but maybe we don't want that. So my hope with my students and with you all who I'm working with today is that eventually we always have the ability to choose. I want to articulate exactly this way and say, because that's appropriate for this music. So that's a good thing for you to practice. You know, you can try this any number of ways, certainly inside your piece, the tango here, or maybe when you practice your scales, you know, set your metronome and practice starting them on a syncopation and decide like, okay, this time I'm going to do it very accented. This next time I'm going to do it very unaccented. So that way we're practicing both. Makes sense? All right, very well done. Nice job. Okay, I think maybe the last thing, let's look at the last section you played, 25 to 28. Specifically, Yulin, 5, 6, 3, 7, bar 27. Is there anything tricky in that measure for you? Not really. All right. Love it. Okay, let's try it. 25 to 28. Okay, pretty good. I would give you a solid A, 92%. We can maybe I think we can gain 5% pretty easily in here, Yulin. So we have, if you look in bar 25, yeah, bar 27, we have a quarter note, I'm using the wrong terms again. Crotchet triplet, would that be correct? Crotchet triplet, okay. Now, when we play that sort of division, triplet of any kind, we usually have a tough time playing evenly. So for instance, if I was to play a triplet, think we can all hear that's not quite a triplet. It's close. Not quite even, right? That last one is too short. You can sort of hear the difference. I'm exaggerating, of course. Now if we play it evenly, now we're getting somewhere, right? And when we put it in this context of a crotchet triplet over this kind of beat for this tango, it becomes more difficult. So you're falling into that trap just a little bit, but your last note, the G of this triplet, is too short. So why don't we try that measure, Yulin? 27. Dee dum da dee da da dee da. Nice and even. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Do it one more time to make sure it wasn't a mistake. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, perfect. If we play these correctly, like if we play triplets really well, it's like painfully even. You know, it almost sounds a little strange, but it's a good thing to aim for. So you can practice that with the metronome, of course. I like also having students learn how to tap 3 in one hand and 2 in another. So if we were to go, you can probably only see it on the camera, but 3 in one hand and 2 in the other, because that's what we have to feel on that triplet. It's quite complex, but when we play it right, it feels super simple and it just sort of flows, just like you demonstrated, Yulin. All right, well done. Lucia, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, playing really beautifully, really beautifully. Great technique, beautiful sound, great expression. This piece is an important one for us, being quite early for our repertoire, 1866, for those of you who may not know this. And that number seems arbitrary, but when we say that the saxophone was basically invented around 1840, that's not a lot of time. And what I think is so interesting, and you demonstrated so well for us, is one of the very early criticisms of the saxophone in the 1850s and 60s was that, yes, it sounded nice, but it would never be capable of technical runs and vast arpeggiations. Well, we heard quite a few during that performance, didn't we? And for anyone who's maybe looked up photos of early saxophones from this period made by Adolphe Sax, another interesting thing to note is they don't have all the keys that we enjoy now. There was no side B flat key, there was no alternate F sharp. The octave key is not a single key, but two that we had to go between, kind of like a bassoon. Thinking about this being played on an instrument of that era is really interesting. If it's of further interest, the Dutch saxophonist Arno Bornkamp recorded this work on an original Adolphe Sax saxophone. So he's navigating all of those intricacies very well in that recording. And it's a period piano as well from 1860s. Really great recording. But let's get into the music. You did really a fabulous job with this. I think maybe we can go back to the beginning and talk about a few things here in this opening. To me, it's very, in a sense, like an overture to an opera, this whole first section until we get to the theme. And I think you do a nice job of getting that to happen. I wonder, Lucia, if we could even play a little more dramatically. So maybe we could start at rehearsal A, just the first entrance. And I want you to think about really trying to take us all the way to that first high D over those 4 counts. Just really stretch it out. Yeah, good. Better already. That's perfect, perfect. So, Lucia, let's try one more thing. Now, there's lots of movement, right? We've got all these 16th notes. What if we were to take away all of that and just reduce it to a really simple melody? What would be the most important notes? Any thoughts?
Probably the D and the A and then the B flat, like the longer held notes.
Okay, can you play that for us? Let's play the phrase that way, only those notes, and really try to lead us there, take the listeners and show us where we're going.
So just mix out the kind of thing.
Yeah. Good. So now we can hear like the airs connecting a little bit more. And, you know, we might even think about adding one more note in there. Right, that resolution in the second measure is kind of important too. But I think that's a really good way for us to sort of look at technical music and decide what's most important and where we can really draw the ears. All those 16th notes lead us to the next important moment. So with that in mind, let's play it as written and use those 16th notes to propel our ears to the next important long value. Good. Solid 95%. Let's get the last 1% out of this. What I hear you doing is right before you move to the next long value, you have your 16th notes. It's like, with my students, I say it's like you've pulled your parachute. Suddenly you back away and then you come in. So I'll try to demonstrate what I'm hearing. Hear me swelling. I'm exaggerating. You don't sound quite like that. I'm just making sure everyone can hear. So what I want you to do is connect all the way through. It's going to help lead us there without it being so segmented. Let's try it. Good, good. It's better. Now, like 5 minutes in the practice room, if you decided this is what you wanted to do, you would have it. But it's something to keep your ears on. It's a very common wind player trait because what we're trying to do is avoid accenting on each of these, you know, big intervals or like where we're arriving on something. And sometimes we just go too far in the wrong direction. You were not accenting them at all in that they weren't being played louder, but you were accenting them in that they fell so far backward in dynamic, they also, you know, were at the forefront of our mind. All right.
I have to make sure play them. Well, I have to remember the dynamic marking. Sometimes I would like to play left tempo, but then I realise I'm playing effort and not basically.
Right. Okay, let's keep going. Let's start. We can start at this sort of a similar spot. Hopefully we're looking at the same score, but if we start in the third line, it's the same theme, but this time it goes up to the high E flat eventually. And same sort of thing here, like lead us to that resolution. Like really try to bring us all the way up there. A nice sort of joyous, bright, shiny moment. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes, very good, very good. Try it one more time, please. And when you get to your E flat, a little vibrato. Make it the arrival by signaling with that excitement. Dee-dum, yan, da, dee, da, 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 dum. Yeah, correct. Yeah, good. I like that. You know, it's a little more overt, but like this is salon music, so it would be played for a small audience. Yes, absolutely. But you know, creating that sense of drama and excitement, because I do think this is pretty firmly rooted in opera in many ways, is a good thing. So we can sort of like, you know, think more clearly about like how might a singer approach this. And I think that's a nice thing for us to study a little bit and think about, because our instrument matches so well with voice, and it helps us interpretively. You've noticed by now, all of you, that I sing quite frequently when I teach, not only over Zoom, but in person. I'm not a great singer, but it's really helped inform me a lot about how I use my air on my instrument. So I think it's very useful. Let's keep going, Lucia. Why don't we get into the... let's get into this first cadenza. So for me, that's the top of page 2. Low D, da 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 dum, ya da 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 dum. And what I want you to think about is you try this up to the first, or let's go to the second fermata, is pacing. How we move through this, because we're trying to gain momentum, a certain amount of excitement. And oftentimes when we play cadenza, especially something like this, very technical, very chromatic, we end up too fast, too soon. And we want to make sure we don't hit like the apex, the crest of our technique too early, because then there's nowhere to go and we sort of lose momentum. We can't keep the excitement going. Let's try.
Did you want me to play up to the E flat?
Let's play up to the second fermata, the low D.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, very good. So my question is, do you need the breath after the A? The breath is causing a pretty big loss of momentum. You do a nice job of building us forward, but the breath is like slamming on the brakes.
I haven't tried it without the breath, but I could.
Let's try it. And what I'll suggest, because we can't fix one problem without thinking like, well, you still will need to breathe somewhere. So think of it this way. Let's eliminate that first breath. And what I want you to do is go all the way to the high E flat. Sorry. I can't read my music. There we go. You can sort of get that breath in after the E flat before you start playing your duple staccatos. Let's try that and see if that changes things. go. Success. So it should work. Yeah, eventually. And that's it, you know. But I mean, if it only took you 2 tries, that's pretty darn good. So, you know, I think it's something to explore, because automatically, immediately, my feeling as the listener there was that I was, you know, being led forward. Like, you know, sometimes with the audience, we need to take them by the hand and like lead them to what's important, or get them to feel like, hey, this music is going somewhere. And that time it really felt like it. So five minutes of practice and you'll have it perfected. But I think the listening experience will be so much better for everyone in the audience. So little things like that, keep looking for in cadenza. Cadenzas are simple in a certain sense of like, we can only do a certain number of things to make them exciting. We can play faster or slower, louder or softer, and then we can take time. Now, whether that's like, you know, playing rallentando, sede, stringendo, things like this, or utilizing silence, which is often underutilized. That's it. So playing with these elements, how they can work together, that's sort of the key to a successful cadenza. Let's go. I'd love to hear the, you know, I think a spot where we can do a little work is the andante after E, the 9/8. Now this articulation marking, Lucia, staccato underneath the slur, what does that mean to you? How are you going to try to play that?
I think, in my mind, I think light, for example, light for the staccato, but then also not too light that you're not imagining it under a slur, which also sometimes signifies a line. So if you're too light and you separate the notes, then you're interrupting the phrase. But I don't know whether I'm playing what I'm thinking I want to do, basically.
Yeah, no, I think you're doing a nice job. The marking is deceiving for us as wind players, especially. It's a string marking. A violinist would know exactly what to do, and that's keeping the bow moving in the same direction and creating an articulation through changing bow speed. So if we were playing violin, this is my bow hand. I'm only going in this direction, and you can see it sort of looks a little jerky when I do it, but they're just slowing down the bow. So the sound never stops, but it gives sort of this illusion of articulation. It's called mezzo staccato. For us, the way you describe it, great, light, connected. I think the important thing being that we don't necessarily want silence. So let's try just these first 2 bars and see if we can really get all those to work together. Just think about very nice connected light notes.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Yeah, great. And I think, you know, for all of us wind players, clarinetists have this issue too, really being able to control the sound like you just demonstrated and get these nice connected notes that don't actually ever stop. It's really a lot of air control, and you're doing it quite well. So keep striving to continue to grow that skill, because it leads you towards the opportunity to make a choice with articulation, like we talked about with Yulin, of saying like, it's not just that it's articulated, it's that I want it to be this very specific way. And you're accomplishing that well. Let's look at 2 bars before F. Same thing. Just trying to get those to connect as you're doing rallentando. When you're ready, try it.
Sorry, where did you say?
Sorry, I'm going fast. 2 before F.
Because I have different letters.
Oh. Okay.
I know,
I think it might be 2 before K.
Okay.
It's yours, Lucia, I think. Like that anyway.
Okay.
Good. Can you think of connecting just a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep that air really engaged. There we go. I think that's, you know, that's going to lend itself well, especially to this moment that is weakening. We're sort of dying away. We're getting a little slower before we bring in all this technique again at F. So good contrasts there. Okay, the last thing I think we can look at, the finale, 2/4, allegretto. Your technique is great. Fingers are in really nice shape. One thing that I think in here we can always focus on a little bit more is just making sure like the air is the important thing. Your fingers are fine. You don't need to worry about your technique, but making sure you have enough air behind it to get response. Quite often when we're practicing or playing, we'll think we've made a technical error, that we had a finger slip or what have you, when really it's just we didn't have the air behind it, so it didn't respond. So it sounds like a technical error. So what I'm going to suggest is we can try like 4 bars of this. And I want you to go maybe closer to halftime. And just focus on steady air, no articulations, and just get a sense for what it feels like to get the air out. Yeah. Very good, very good. Now try it closer to your tempo, but with the same feeling of air. Don't place your mind on the fingers, place it on the air. Right, good. Now what I notice in that compared to when you played through the whole piece, your accents now sound better because you're just using more air, so they just pop out a little bit more naturally. You don't have to work so hard. And that's a good thing. There's plenty of hard stuff happening. So, these are little things that I think as you keep practicing a piece like this or any other repertoire you're working on, we can continue to place the emphasis. You have very great facility on the saxophone. You have a really natural, expressive nature to the way you're playing. So getting all these things to sort of work together even more, like that's the next step for you. And that's sort of where it gets really exciting about, really finding our personal voice with our artistry. So, those are some of the things that I'd keep practicing sort of day to day, whether it's in this or something else, really putting the focus on how you're using the air to get to the end goal. Because that's the thing. Technique is, in a certain sense, easy. That's a motor skill. We can learn that as long as we practice slowly and work it up. But what's going on behind it is going to let you say something. Lucia, do you have any questions for me?
I guess, well, something I've always tried to help get better with this piece is just stamina, because obviously it's quite long, and I haven't yet played it with the piano, sadly, because I actually love the piano accompaniment, but because of not being at school, I haven't had a chance to play with piano. So I know that I'll be able to take some rest and stuff, but I just wondered if with this piece, or just in general, how you build up stamina within practice, because I feel for me it doesn't help if I just keep running it. There's no point just running the piece, because that's not going to help. Yeah, I just wondered if you had any.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, whether it's during times like these when we just can't be together, or even in life before COVID, because we might not be able to play with piano all the time. So I do think yes, running it's important, but after a time it can become sort of monotonous. Because we might have to make changes based on who we're playing with or whatever. Stamina conditioning is sort of what I think of with that too, having enough endurance to be able to do it is important. So, how we can put ourselves in a performance scenario in the practice room is always helpful, whether that's playing for someone, maybe in your household, or, I've had students we have this hallway here, say take a brisk walk up and down 3 times and then come in and play, because then you're a little bit more winded. That can be helpful too, just to sort of simulate what it's going to feel like. The hardest part for us is that practicing is a segmented process, typically. We work on small sections. We work on what's difficult. And we often sort of forget the next step, which is, well, you have to play larger sections. And then we have to run the music top to bottom. And then we have to think about, if you're playing a full recital, for instance, Lucia, and you've got 4 pieces, maybe this is your last piece. well, what's it going to feel like to play Demersman after I've played for 40 minutes already?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you have to
like,
like,
I have a recital if it happens to happen, which is 25 minutes long, including this, and then like Syrinx, and then I think Creston, and I'm just like thinking about it now, like I don't even know how I'm gonna get through it, like with some water maybe, like I just don't, I just find that hard, like probably one of the hardest things at the moment.
sure. Yeah. And I think, but, putting yourself in that situation, maybe, you know, as you're getting close to the recital, like every day, maybe when you're sort of finished practicing, like say, okay, I'm going to take a 15-minute break and then I'm going to run the program. I'm going to simulate the recital. So like you play your Creston and then simulate the resting between, between pieces. Maybe you walk off stage. So say, okay, I'm going to give myself 4 minutes on a timer. I'm going to go off stage, swab out my instrument, get a drink of water. Okay, now it's time for Syrinx. And then play Syrinx, and same thing, like, okay, now I'm going to take a 4-minute break, same thing, swab the instrument out, drink of water, try to relax, do some breathing, play my Demersman, because then we get a real sense of what it's going to feel like in real life. And that's often the missing step. So that's what I suggest. Try it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to hear you. Great job. Really, really marvelous playing. Keep up the good work. I really hope your recital goes well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Thank you.